One of my early investors looked me in the eye and said, I'll take 10 cents on the dollar to be done with this. No fight, no drama, just the quiet, calm disappointment. And this wasn't because he didn't believe in the product or the team or the market. He stopped believing in me. And the truth, I didn't see it coming because I was focused on traction and he was reacting to trust. If you ever felt like growth is slipping away, even when your data is showing you're winning, this might be the most important leadership skill no one ever taught you. Let's break it down. Yeah, this one stung. We had traction, real product, real users, not some unicorn pitch deck. Actual growth. I wasn't in Fantasyland, we were shipping, we were retaining. And then one of my seed investors hits me up with this message. Hey, been thinking about the next round. Can we talk? Now, if you ever raised money, you know what that means. The meeting was calm, respectful, professional, but final. Rather take a loss than keep my capital in. You're working hard, but I don't think this gets us there. It wasn't a debate, it was a decision. No drama, no rant, just exit. But here's what shook me. It wasn't the numbers. We had active users. We had runway, but he didn't trust the momentum anymore. He didn't believe the vision was alive. I was sending updates and he was feeling something else. I was focused on content and he was reacting to context. And this is what this video is about, that invisible layer beneath the KPIs, the thing that kills trust even before the dashboard loads. Here's where most founders miss the signal. Every conversation you're having with your team, your board, your investors, it's happening on 2 layers. Layer 1 is the content. That's the stuff we all get trained to focus on. That's the roadmap, the KPIs, the pitch deck, the vision slides. That's the visible layer, the one you can measure. But there's layer 2, context, the energy in the room, the tone in your voice, the questions behind the questions. Do they believe this will work? Do they believe you will make it work? And when content and context don't match, that's when trust breaks. Quietly, long before it breaks publicly. So let's go back to that investor moment. Here's what I showed them. Weekly updates, clean decks, forecasts tied to milestones. And here's what they felt. This is off. You're executing, but you're not leading. I don't think you're the one to take it all the way. I was proving the plan, and they were questioning the presence. But let's get real for a sec. You can hit every KPI, nail your CAC, LTV ratio, even crush your deck. But if the energy in the room says this isn't working, then it's not. That's context. And if you're not trained to read it, you'll misread the room over and over again. And this isn't just about investors. Your team feels context too. If you're leading from stress, reactivity, or burnout, they can feel that. And when they don't feel safety or clarity, they check out. Not because they don't care, but because they don't trust the direction. Content is the temperature, context is the water it's sitting in. Check the water, not just the numbers. So what happens when context goes sideways? Most founders, they shift into unconscious leadership. Not because they're bad, because they've been trained to react, not respond. Let me show you what this actually looks like side by side. Unconscious leadership on the left, conscious leadership on the right. Unconscious, defend the plan. Conscious, pause before posturing. Conscious, re-explain the numbers. Conscious, get curious, not defensive. Unconscious, sprint harder. Conscious, ask better questions. Unconscious, manage perception. Conscious, name the emotional truth. Most founders get stuck on the left side, not because they're broken, because it's what they were taught. But the shift, it's always available. You feel an investor pulling back, so you send another update. Sense your team disengaging, so you double the meetings. Execution starts to slow, so you crank up the pressure. But here's the thing, none of that actually touches the real issue. You're leading from fear. You're managing optics, not the energy. That's unconscious leadership. It looks like control, but it's driven by fear. It moves fast, but without awareness. And it burns trust, even without realizing it. Conscious leadership is something else. It's not soft, it's not passive. It's presence. You pause, tune in, You ask, what's actually going on here? What's not being said? What emotional state am I leading from right now? Let's go back to that investor meeting. I could have defaulted to the deck, the pipeline, the MRR, the CAC, retention, our runway, all on track. But the conscious move would have been, sounds like you lost confidence. Can you walk me through what changed and where I missed the signal? That's the shift. One approach is about proving and the other is about understanding. In high stakes leadership, that's the difference between a last minute exit and a long-term partner. People don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. They need to know you can name what's real, even when it's hard. Well, especially when it's hard. And when you do that, you build trust. You unlock hard conversations. You create a space for people to stay in the game with you, even if the answers aren't clear yet. All right, here's where it gets real. This is the shift that would change everything for me. It started the moment that investor said he was out. And I'll be honest, it hurt. Not just because we needed the money, but because of what it meant. I don't believe in where this is going. And honestly, felt like what he was really saying was, I don't think you're the one to get us there. That's what it felt like. And right away in my mind, it went into blame mode. Maybe you've been there. They don't get it. They were never the right fit. The market's just slow right now. That's what I've learned is called to-me thinking. This is happening to me. They're pulling out. The team isn't executing. Nobody sees how hard I'm working. Sound familiar? Now listen, that response, it's totally human, totally normal. But here's what made the difference. I asked for feedback. I wanted to know what I missed and how I could grow. And to his credit, he didn't jump in right away. He actually asked his wife how honest he should be. She said, be honest, he asked. And what he shared is gold. He told me what I needed to hear, not to tear me down, but to help me grow. I didn't fully process that feedback at the time. Truth is, it took me years to really integrate it. But that conversation, that kind of honesty, that came from a conscious leader, and I'll always respect him for it. Eventually, that's what led me to the shift, from to me to by me. What part of this did I create? What signal did I miss? What context did I allow to go unspoken? That's by me thinking, and it's where conscious leadership actually begins. When I finally sat down and started asking those questions for real, this is what came up. When's the last time I actually updated the story they believed in? Had I been sharing vision or just updates? Was I giving the impression of traction or conviction? And here's what I saw. That investor's decision didn't happen overnight. It was a slow erosion of belief. And I missed it because I was too deep in the weeds. So I did the only thing I could control. I took ownership. I made the offboarding clean. I stayed in integrity. And I started re-anchoring how I communicate. Not just in the content, but in the energy behind it. That's what by me leadership looks like. Not being a hero, not being perfect, but being awake. And it's not just about investors. This shift, it shows up everywhere. When a key hire checks out, when your leadership team starts drifting into silos, when execution slows. And nobody says it out loud. If your default is, why is this happening to me? You're stuck in survival mode. But if you pause and ask, how did I contribute to this? What context did I create that I wasn't aware of? Now you're in ownership, and when you reclaim power, you get to rewrite the story. Look, I didn't catch it in time with that investor, but I did take the lesson forward. And since then, that one shift from to me to by me has helped me lead through way harder moments. Because once you stop blaming the room, you start shifting the room. Einstein said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. And if you're scaling a company, chances are you're trying to solve a context problem with content tools, more dashboards, more meetings, more metrics. But none of that works if the energy behind it is off. Let's go back to where this started. That investor didn't walk because of the numbers or the plan. He walked because he couldn't feel the belief anymore. Truth is, I couldn't either. I was still leading from the same mindset I used when we were a scrappy, reactive, heads down, survival mode company. Got us off the ground, but it wasn't going to take us forward. So here's the real question. Are you trying to lead a $50 million company with a $5 million operating system? Because you can't raise your next round, you can't align your executive team, you can't scale past chaos if you're leading from the same mindset that built the first version of your company. You don't need to be louder, you don't need to move faster, you don't need to have all the answers. What you need is a new level of awareness, a different way of being in the room. Because when that shifts, you don't just shift the numbers, you shift the room. And that's where real scale begins. If you're a founder leading through friction, this is your moment to pause. Because you don't need more hustle, you don't need another tool, and you definitely don't need to muscle your way through another quarter. What you do need is a way to see what others can't, to lead from awareness, to operate from alignment, to reset the room without being the loudest voice in it. That's the shift. And it's the difference between founders who scale and founders who stall. This landed for you if you felt the tension no one's naming, if you've seen the team go quiet, if you sense beliefs slipping but couldn't explain why. Let's talk. This is the work I do. I help founders rebuild trust, reset culture, and lead at the next level with presence, precision, and power.